Good evening. My name is Patty Krogan. I'm about to be the past board chair of the Federation. And tonight it's my pleasure to update you on a few highlights of the work of the Federation over the past year. During my many years of volunteer service, I've watched our Federation refine its vision and focus, becoming ever more inclusive, more creative, and more intentional. Before I begin, let me thank Jacques Herzog and the Center for Hearing and Balance Disorders for sponsoring the closed captioning both tonight and at the 2019 L'Chaim celebration in a few weeks. So as Jerry has reported, the national search for a CEO continues, but the work of the Federation has continued unabated. As board chair, I want to really recognize Jerry's enormous contribution to both aiding in stabilizing us during a period of transition, as I think all of you can appreciate, but also continuing to lead the implementation of the 2017 strategic plan, providing for a Jewish community foundation model that replaces the traditional planning and allocations functions. The plan calls for a needs-first approach and a case for giving based on these defined community needs. Community investments will be tied to measurable programmatic impact in St. Louis, in Israel, and wherever Jews are in need. These changes will help us as donors more clearly see and understand the impact of our philanthropy. The current Federation Board, too, has worked very hard to bring these plans to fruition, and under Greg's future leadership, will oversee pilot programs and investments under the new model as we work to support a vibrant Jewish community. Over the year, leadership development has continued to be a major focus of Federation, as you've already heard, as it continues to engage future lay leaders, preparing especially young people for larger community leadership roles. One of Federation's newest programs, and you heard a little bit of this mentioned in the video, is Access Leadership. Through a series, this is a program that's jointly sponsored by the Ben-Gurion Society and the Millstone Institute. Through a series of specialized seminars on Jewish values and leadership skills, the program offered participants the opportunity to explore their values, understand challenges in the community, hear differing perspectives, and work individually with a senior volunteer mentor. We're pleased to have some of the members of the first class here tonight, and I'd like you to please stand so everyone can see you and recognize you. Joanna Alper. Is Joanna here? Lauren Cohen, Richie Gallant, Evan Glantz, Alex Hyman, Bill Hoffman, Jenny Kronik, Weston Manley, Abby Marks, Dahlia Oppenheimer, and David Palatnik. Thank you all. YPD, our Young Professionals Division, also enjoyed a long-anticipated relaunch last month. Now rebranded as Your Place Discovered, over 200 young adults gathered to celebrate its mission to build and sustain an inspired, thriving community of Jewishly engaged young adults. Our thanks to their new board for all their hard work. Also working towards engaging the next generation are a new cadre of PJ Library ambassadors who personally reach out to young families to tell the story of PJ Library and how sharing books with their children will help families enhance Jewish identity and strengthen Jewish homes. Currently, 2,632 families participate in this amazing program. Thank you again to our founding family, Michael and Leslie Litwack, for their vision in bringing this program to St. Louis. Last year, as has been mentioned, we also celebrated a very successful community-wide arts and culture festival in partnership with the JCCA. Sababa, a slang expression that my son-in-law tells me is used all the time in modern Hebrew, originally meant amazing, but over time, it came to mean cool. So being with thousands of our community was indeed cool and amazing. Our work connecting people to Israel also continues with educational programs like Shema Listen, special speakers like the upcoming talk by David Makovsky on the Israeli elections, our Shin Shanim program, which brings 2 Israeli teens to St. Louis to volunteer in our schools and synagogues to teach about modern Israeli life and to learn from their American counterparts. On top of this, of course, community missions that Federation sponsors, in addition to the many missions that are sponsored by our synagogues and temples. Ours include the Interfaith Mission, the JWRP Momentum, and Birthright trips to Israel. Last December, Jerry led another bipartisan group of state legislators on the biannual Legislators Mission. And coming up in October is our second community-wide Show Me Israel trip, led by Karen Rader, with close to 90 people already signed up. These were some of the positive highlights of the past year. But of course, the work is never done. We know from the community study that there are still too many Jews in our community living with severe economic distress and orphan seniors living isolated and alone. We know that religious affiliation is threatened, and the strategic investment of funds in Jewish education and young families is critical. And sadly, as Jerry's mentioned, the American Jewish community has witnessed a dramatic increase in anti-Semitic hate speech and attacks. Here in St. Louis, we're lucky, along with the JCRC and ADL, to have a Holocaust Museum and Learning Center that takes the lead in outreach and education to the broader community about the dangers of hatred and discrimination. You may not know that last year alone, over 30,000 people from 48 states visited the museum here to learn about the Holocaust and the continuing threat of prejudice and intolerance, both here and abroad. Our museum is a gem that we should be so very proud of. The museum has also debuted a project that began in the 70s. We do remember the 70s. When volunteers spent hours interviewing Holocaust survivors, liberators, and others who had come to live in St. Louis after the war. Those oral history recordings are now online, along with pictures and maps in a searchable database, preserving these stories for all time. I want to thank Fran Poger for her work this past year as chair of the museum, and to congratulate Bud Rosenbaum, who is being installed tonight as the new Holocaust Museum and Learning Center chair. To support other initiatives and programs like those I've mentioned, the 2019 community campaign is in full swing. I'm sure you've seen posters and emails and even snail mail announcing the 100 days to make an impact. And perhaps you've heard the first podcasts, Here for Good, hosted by Vice President of Federation, Karen Scher. Last year's campaign was successful in no small part because of a significant increase in the number of donors. So as we come together tonight, reaffirming our commitment to the vision of a vibrant Jewish community, we can continue to leverage our collective resources to achieve common goals. In a few weeks, over 700 women will join together at the Ritz-Carlton for the 5th anniversary of L'Chaim. The theme for the evening is, if you find something greater than yourself, you can do great things in the world. And that is the message I would leave you with tonight. Together, we do great things. Thank you.